Sometimes when I'm lacking the courage to do something, sometimes when I'm hesitant to carry something out, I tell myself, look, we're all gonna die one day. I'm gonna die one day. What's up, my mates? If you're one of those legends who's already seen my previous video in which I talked about why I quit investment banking, then you'll already know that in it, I had revealed a few lines of the goodbye email that I'd sent across to my Goldman colleagues or my fellow Goldmanites. At the time, Goldman and I parted ways in July of 2016. In this video, I'm gonna reveal the email in its entirety because I truly believe that there are lots of life lessons embedded in that email that all of us, including me, need to be reminded of. If this was any ordinary run-of-the-mill email, then I certainly would not have been dedicating an entire video to it. So I'm sincerely hoping that by the end of this video, you too agree with the sentiments of one of my former Goldman colleagues who had this to say in response to my email. For the purposes of this video, we're going to tackle one paragraph at a time. So I'm going to display the paragraph on the screen. We'll read the paragraph together, we'll analyze it, we'll reflect on it, and then move on to the following paragraph. Cool beans? Let's get going in that case. As some of you may already know, the firm and I have parted ways. I will fondly look back on the 2 odd years that I spent donning the Goldman jersey. I would describe the Goldman culture as being internally cooperative to be as externally competitive as possible. It is by virtue of this internal cooperation that I benefited the most during my time here. Thus, a big heartfelt thank you for the teachings, mentoring, memories, and experiences, all very valuable additions to my life resume. While I may not have always met expectations, I would certainly like to think that I gave it my 120%, approached tasks with the proper attitude, and above all, was genuine. Brilliant. So you'll notice that in the first line, I used the phrase Goldman jersey, and honestly, that's exactly how I felt every single day when I showed up to the office. Because of the attachment that I felt to the firm, I felt as if I was wearing the damn jersey of the company. This also reminds me of a couple of quotes that are similar. So look, I absolutely hate Arsenal Football Club with a passion, but there's no denying how good, how beautiful this quote is from a former Arsenal captain, Tony Adams, who said, "Play for the name on the front of the shirt and they'll remember the name on the back." Brilliant. Another quote that springs to mind is one by Jamie Dimon, who's the CEO of JP Morgan, and he said, "I look at JP Morgan's business like a wear the damn jersey. I'm going to bleed for the company and give it everything I've got." Let's read on. I would describe the Goldman culture as being internally cooperative to be as externally competitive as possible. Honestly, this was something that was extremely captivating about the culture at Goldman Sachs. It's so hard to believe that at a place like Goldman, where people are so driven, so ambitious, they still put the interests of the firm above their personal interests. That was so unique about the culture. So you may feel that, you know what, these people who have super inflated egos are only doing things for their own personal gain, but they always put the interests of the firm above their personal interests, and that's something that made Goldman's culture very unique. This is something I talk about in detail in this video of mine, in which I talk about the culture at Goldman Sachs and how that culture at Goldman Sachs was actually very, very unique. It is by virtue of this internal cooperation that I benefited the most during my time here. Thus, a big heartfelt thank you for the teachings, mentoring, memories, and experiences, all very valuable additions to my life resume. Let me just stress a bit and emphasize on the phrase life resume. By life resume, I mean what is your experiential CV, not your paper resume, not your paper CV, your experiential CV. And I've sincerely come to believe, based on whatever little experience that I have, that the more novel experiences that you actually expose yourself to, the more you can actually maximize your learning, the more new things you're learning. And so maximize learning by virtue of maximizing your experiences here being your experiential CV or your life resume. While I may not have always met expectations, I would certainly like to think that I gave it my 120%, approached tasks with a proper attitude, and above all, was genuine. This reminds me, especially the 120% bit that I mentioned, reminds me of this one quote from Virat Kohli, captain of the Indian cricket team, captain of Royal Challengers Bangalore as well. And Virat Kohli's philosophy is that if I give it my 120% every single day, I am answerable to no one. It's a beautiful quote. It's very simple, but it's very profound. And what this means is, look, if I know that, you know what, on a daily basis, I am putting my best foot forward, I am giving my 120%, then even if things don't quite work out now, they will work out down the line. Or even if they don't end up working out down the line, I know that I will not feel guilty about the fact that I half-assed the process, you know. I still gave it everything that I had, and so no one can fault me for not being fully committed to the task. So what you can do is, the best you can do is, you can control the controllables. Control whatever is within your control to the best of your ability. Of course, things might not materialize, things might not transpire in accordance with how you anticipate or how you visualize things or how you would ideally want them to transpire, but whatever you can control to the best of your your ability, and then let God, let the external circumstances do the rest. Approach tasks with a proper attitude, and above all, was genuine. Look, the word genuine may seem a bit trite here only because it's very overused, but it's extremely important that regardless of what you do, you could be working on your work projects, you could be working on your personal projects, always showcase your authentic self. Escape competition through authenticity, and the reason I say that is because no one can beat you at being you. So you can honestly create a market of one, right? And escape all the competition out there by you just being completely true to yourself and bringing your genuine and 100% true self to the fore every single day, regardless of what task you're working on, what task you're embarking upon. Next paragraph. I may have learned the odd technical finance concept or two. However, the more valuable lessons, at least in my perspective, that will indelibly stick with me stem from becoming grittier and more resilient, learning to take calculated risks, dealing with colorful personalities and understanding what makes them tick, becoming comfortable being uncomfortable, and finding a way and doing whatever it takes to get the task done. Look, this is exactly what my answer is to anyone who actually questions my decision. I can understand that on paper, moving from engineering to investment banking to being a sports presenter doesn't quite make sense. And so whenever friends or family members raise concerns or raise doubts about my intentions, about my decisions, these are all well-intentioned questions, but at the same time, what people might not understand, especially the people who claim that, the 4 years that I spent doing engineering were a waste of time because I went to finance after that, or the 2 years that I spent at Goldman Sachs, or the 6 months that I spent at Deutsche Bank were also a waste of time because now I've moved from finance to becoming a sports presenter, don't quite realize the importance of interdisciplinary learning. That, things that you learn in one field can also be applied to another field, even if that other field is in no way, shape or form related to your former field. Had it not been for those 2 or 3 years that I spent at Goldman Sachs, I probably wouldn't have been as confident about myself. I probably wouldn't have been as tenacious. I probably wouldn't have had the same work ethic. I probably wouldn't have learned how to take calculated risks. And moving from finance to sports presenting was a calculated risk. And who knows, had I not spent those 2 years at Goldman Sachs, I probably wouldn't have been able to muster up the courage or the belief that I can actually make it despite this very drastic pivot. One of the reasons I consider myself to be a good conversationalist, and I'm actually able to hold long conversations with these celebrities, cricketers like Murli Karthik, Michael Hussey, Darren Ganga, and lots of other celebrities that I actually get to interview on a day-to-day basis in my job as a sports presenter, is because of the confidence that I was able to gain through the conversations that I had with strong personalities at Goldman Sachs, with lots of Goldman MDs, with lots of Goldman partners. And so the fact that I was actually forced to come out of my comfort zone and speak with people who were way more accomplished than I was and who were much better conversationalists than I was actually helped me attain those skills or cultivate those skills. And these skills come in handy even today. I feel very similarly about the time that I spent at Georgia Tech. All those sleepless nights at the library at Georgia Tech continue to pay dividends for me even today, because engineering bestowed upon me an analytical mindset. It helped me cultivate a problem-solving ability. Engineering, just like Goldman Sachs did, taught me a lot of resilience. It taught me a lot of tenacity. And this resilience and tenacity comes in handy every single day, even today. I am not certain about what the future holds, but I'm filled with nervous excitement at the prospect of what might be in store. I had never imagined working in finance, let alone plying my trade at Goldman Sachs, when I used to make those walks of shame from the library to my 8 a.m. class as an engineer at Georgia Tech. I want to spend the near future devoting time to family, reading, writing, golf, cricket, the Football World Cup, lifting, and daydreaming. So this paragraph is fairly self-explanatory, so I won't go into it in too much detail, but you can tell based on some of the items that I've listed in the last line of this paragraph how bottomless my love is for sports and fitness. I talk about planning to devote time to golf, cricket, the Football World Cup, and lifting. Next paragraph. I plan on being in the city for at least a few weeks, but my gut tells me to eventually move back to my old stomping grounds in Kolkata, India, where I will be with family and my closest friends. I have spent close to 7 years now stateside, and have truly come to believe that the days are long, but the years are short. I take enough confidence and self-belief with me from my time here at Goldman that I can add value to whatever it is that I end up pursuing full-time. My God, this phrase, the days are long, but the years are short, gives me goosebumps every time I read it. This line is orgasmic, and I don't think there's any line that actually explains or describes the brevity or the shortness of life with so much simplicity yet so much profundity. I'd first come across this line, the days are long but the years are short, in a book called When Breath Becomes Air. It's a book that I would recommend that all of you read. Beautiful, beautiful book. Another quote that springs to mind that actually drives home what I'm trying to say here is a quote by Confucius who said, "We have two lives, and the second begins when we realize we only have one." When you realize the reality of your mortality and the inevitability of death, it's such a liberating feeling. As morbid as this sounds, sometimes when I'm lacking the courage to do something, sometimes when I'm hesitant to carry something out, I tell myself, look, we're all going to die one day. I'm going to die one day. And so when you realize that your time here on earth is brief and that when you die, none of this will matter, honestly, it will actually equip you with the courage to do certain things that you might be slightly conscious or hesitant to carry out right now. Another line that's very important in this paragraph is, I take enough confidence and self-belief with me from my time here at Goldman that I can add value to whatever it is that I end up pursuing full time. If you look at the likes of Sergio Ramos, you look at Cristiano Ronaldo, you look at Conor McGregor, you look at Virat Kohli and similar such personalities, right? Something that's actually very overwhelmingly visible, right, in all of them is the fact that they have an immense amount of self-belief. Of course, talent is there, no denying that. But talent without self-belief doesn't do jack shit for you. And I truly feel that before my time at Goldman, when I was still at Georgia Tech, or even when I was in high school, I knew that I had the talent, but what I lacked was the self-belief to actually exercise that talent, to actually carry out that talent. But what my time at Goldman did for me, what those 2 years that I spent at Goldman did for me, is that it actually gave me the self-belief as well. And talent plus self-belief to carry out that talent makes for a very lethal concoction. It's a very, very strong compound or combination. I recently even had a chat with former India cricketer Murli Karthik, and this is what he had to say about the importance of self-belief.
If you lack self-belief, then the world is out there to get you. So if you allow people to knock you down and can't get up, then that's a big problem.
Even the best in the business, the idols that we look up to, the people that we look up to, it's not that they wear this cloak of invulnerability. Even they have their vulnerable moments and even they fall down multiple times, just like we do. But I think what separates the men from the boys and the women from the girls is that the pros, right, as opposed to the amateurs, have this unflinching, indefatigable self-belief such that whenever they do end up falling down, they're quick to dust themselves off and get back up. Virat Kohli has even explicitly mentioned that the two most lethal weapons that he has as part of his arsenal are hard work and self-belief. Look, hard work alone can do wonders for you, but you'll probably end up reaching a destination in a car, or you'll end up reaching there slowly. If you combine hard work with unflinching self-belief, then you'll get to your fucking destination in a rocket. So that's how much self-belief can catalyze the process for you. That's the importance of self-belief, and self-belief coupled with talent and hard work, as I said, makes for a bloody good combination. And final paragraph, I wish you the very best in all your future personal and professional endeavors. My phone number and personal email address are this and this respectively. If you ever happen to visit India, especially if near the City of Joy, Kolkata is referred to as the City of Joy, please do reach out to me. To conclude, I just want to say that I am cognizant of the fact that to each his own, to each her own, different strokes for different folks. But I have truly come to believe that you can actually maximize learning by maximizing your experiences or by maximizing the diversity of your experiences. And it's through the very diverse nature of your experiences or your experiential CV or your life resume that you can actually cultivate or hone a very enviable skill set, a fuck you skill set. You don't necessarily learn these things through degrees. Yes, degrees teach you theory, but practice or actual experience trumps theory. And I truly believe, and I mentioned this on my LinkedIn, on my Instagram as well, that skills without degrees trump degrees without skills. And whenever you're following a path that's unconventional, that's unorthodox, that's not quite tried and tested, that's not quite in accordance with what they describe as the textbook approach, then of course you experience a lot of doubt, a lot of insecurities. And I talked about something similar in my previous video as well, where I mentioned that I am still figuring things out. I don't have it completely figured. I am not 100% sorted as others might perceive me to be from the outside. But whenever these doubts, these insecurities do creep in, there's this one quote by Steve Jobs that really acts as a source of comfort. And Steve Jobs had said, creativity is just connecting things. When you ask creative people how they did something, they feel a little guilty because they didn't really do it. They just saw something. It seemed obvious to them after a while. That's because they were able to connect experiences they've had and synthesize new things. And the reason they were able to do that was that they've had more experiences or they have thought more about their experiences than other people. Unfortunately, that's too rare a commodity. A lot of people in our industry haven't had very diverse experiences. So they don't have enough dots to connect. And they end up with very linear solutions without a broad perspective on the problem. The broader one's understanding of the human experience, the better the design we will have. So that's a wrap for this video. If you're still watching this video, then you're an absolute legend. This video was completely extemporaneous. It was completely unscripted and it was meant to be like a discussion. So please do let me know whatever your honest thoughts are on some of the things that I talked about in the comment section. I will be reading every single comment that comes my way. Please do not forget to follow me on LinkedIn and Instagram if you haven't already done so, and continue to stay tuned on this channel. I am eternally grateful for all your love and support. Until next time, stay safe, take care, keep smashing it, and cheers.